everybody. Welcome to Conversations with a Therapist podcast. I'm Jennifer, and I'm very excited to have our guest today, who is Rose from Grief Angels, and she will be talking to us about her journey with mental health. She'll be talking to us about Grief Angels, the podcast, and everything else in between. So, very excited for that, and looking forward to starting the live once Rose gets on. If you have any questions, if you have any comments about grief, about loss, anything you want us to touch on that we might not have highlighted in our agenda for today, you can let us know in the comment section, and we'll be definitely touching on that. So yeah, we're very, very excited. I'm very happy to be talking about this, especially right now when there's so much going on in our country with the femicide issue. Very many families are going through a very heavy time, and this would be a good time for us to have this very important conversation. So Rose will be joining us in just a second, and then we'll get started. Yeah, that's the plan. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, let us know. Grab a pen, grab a notebook, grab something to drink. You never know, you might hear something that's very important that you want to remember. So yeah, very, very excited for the conversation. So Rose is joining just right now, and then we'll get started. A second. Hi, Carol. Thank you for coming through. We're waiting for Rose to join the live. Then we'll get started. I hope you guys have had a wonderful day. Hope you have enjoyed the day to the fullest. When is today? Today is Monday. Yeah, today is Monday. So I hope you're also having a great beginning of the week. We are waiting for Rose, and Rose will be here any second. Rose will be here any second now. Oh, there we go.
Hello.
Hi, Rose. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm just trying to get my volume up. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm just going to also raise my volume. I think we're at max right now. There we go. Yes. Hi.
Hi, nice to meet you. I know we've been
Nice
trying
to meet you. You look so nice. I love your hair.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me just I start sweating like crazy.
Yeah. How
Yeah,
are you? How has your day been? How are you doing? It's Monday.
I've been good. It's a Monday. Mondays are always crazy. It's hot, but it's really or maybe I am anxious. If I do this is because I'm anxious to be online.
What's giving? What could be creating the anxiety?
I just know I do this all the time. I interview people all the time, but
Yeah.
never there. Yeah, it's never me being interviewed. It's very rarely. Always me.
Wow. Welcome to the other side of the conversation then, I guess.
I know, but I'm well. How are you, and how was your day?
I am very well. I had a very good day. I had a very good Monday, surprisingly. And I'm having a good week so far, so I'm very excited. Mondays are usually my calm days. I try to not work on Mondays. So Mondays are usually very calm for me. Yes, exactly. I run a private practice. So with a private practice, you can really like regulate your hours, you can regulate your clients. I deliberately run a very small private practice, so I have a very small number of clients, and yeah, I work with very few people, so I try to make sure that I don't have too much on Mondays. So Monday is like my rest day. That's why it's a very calm day for me.
Those are my goals. Yes. One day I'll get there. I can.
Yeah, it's taken years, but we thank God. It's taken years, but we thank God.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for reaching out. I think very critical space that people are going to get comfortable with, but there's still so much that needs to be done.
Yeah, that's very true. Actually, I'm very excited for this conversation, and for many reasons. But the biggest reason is something I mentioned in the beginning of the life, that right now we're in a very critical part of the season that we're in. It's very critical. People are going through a lot, and even beyond that, there's now the thing with the femicide that has become a bigger deal than it really was. It's always been there, but right now it's like it's been amplified. And I feel like this is a very important conversation to have around grief, because there are many families that are grieving now, especially the ones that are in the limelight, like your family member is the one who has been put on the limelight. They are like the name on the forefront, and now you're
Yeah.
not only grieving, but
Your
but there's also pressure
own
from inside, and people are looking at you.
society. Yeah.
Yeah, so that can be quite a lot. I was actually very interested in this topic because of that conversation, and I'm glad we're having it right
And we
now.
can,
Yeah, so
yeah.
yeah, I think this is a good place to start. Please tell the people who are listening who might not know who Rose is.
Okay.
Tell us a lot about yourself, and your background, and maybe how you ended up talking about grief on a platform like
I,
Instagram. How did all this happen?
I know. So I am Rose. I am a griever. That's what I like to say because I've been a griever for so long and I will be a griever for so long. Maybe until the day I die. Not actually maybe. Until the day I die, I'll continue to be a griever. And wearing that label doesn't make me an outcast or doesn't make me someone that people just point a finger on. Wearing that label means I have embraced my grief and I'm going to walk this journey with it. I'm not going to run away from it. How I got into this space, like I said, I've gone through a lot of grief. I've lost very close family members for over many years now, maybe over 20 plus years, losing my both parents, losing my brothers, each on their own journey. When I tell people that story, they'll be like, oh, was it an accident? No, it wasn't an accident. Every single person has gone on their own timing. So I got into this in 2016 when I was trying to find an outlet for my grief right after my mom had died. By that time, I'd lost my dad, my one brother, and now my mom. And I was like, this is so much for one person to carry. So I just began writing my thoughts on Facebook. And I opened a page called Grief Angels on Facebook in 2016. I just began to write how my grief has been, what I'm feeling like, how my day is. And then soon enough, it began to connect with different people. And people begin to tell me, we like your writing. Where did you go? Thank you. What you're writing is exactly what I'm feeling. Somebody gets me. And then somewhere after that, and then even a whole blog was born after that. And I wrote a whole blog for about a year. But then that work just stopped. I got very busy with life. Life continued to happen until 2022 when I woke up and I said, no, I need to start something, a platform where we continue to talk about grief. We continue to, in fact, the words are demystify grief because a lot of people just don't understand it. And something you don't understand, you stay away from or you just don't want to think about it. So our goal is to demystify grief and also to normalize grieving because grieving is so normal. Everybody has grieved or will grieve. Everybody you love will either grieve you or you will grieve them. That is a reality of life, right? Because as long as we continue to celebrate baby showers, we will also continue to celebrate life on the other side of it. Hopefully celebrate somebody who's lived a very long life, but sometimes it's not always the case because lives end up getting cut very short. So my work today is just to continue to be that voice that says, hey, you're grieving. This is normal. Everything you're feeling is very, very valid. You're not alone. Come find this community. And today we've built a community of at least almost even 3,000 people who come together to just either online grieve or physically in our support groups. So we also launched support groups. We've just done our first event in December where we had a very nice meet and grieve around Christmas to just help people understand what grieving and how the holidays are. So that's how I got into this job.
Wow, that's a journey. And I'm very sorry for your losses. They are numerous, and it's true as you said. It's very heavy for one person to carry. So it's totally understandable that you would seek that is support from other people who've probably gone through the same thing. 2016 is a long time, and up to this point, this is 2024. What has that journey taught you? Like, you have, I'm sure you've met a bazillion people. You say you have a community of 3,000 people. That's a lot of people.
I think the one thing I've learned from 2016 is that everybody has their own grief journey, and it doesn't have to follow any path. Because, like I said, there was a whole gap, and the gap was maybe even 5 years. So for 5 years, I just didn't want to do anything about grief, and that's also okay, right? So I started out wanting to do something. I didn't even know what it was I wanted to do. I just wanted to write and express my grief outwardly. Until now, when I took time to go, like, maybe let me use my experience and what my life has been like to help somebody else. How do I do that? Create a community. How do I do that? Do we do a blog? Then Instagram made sense. Then podcasting was also a big deal, and it still is a big deal right now. So we started with a podcast, did a couple of episodes. Then within the podcast, the community grew. Now people are asking for, can we have support groups, launch support groups without any technical know-how, I'd say, but then figuring it out on the way as we go, because I have been in a support group once or twice, so I know how to do, getting trained on how to facilitate support groups. Now even in a path on coaching and getting certified as a coach for grief. So it's just been continuous learning. So the lessons there are, you don't always have to see the end of it all. And when you're in your dark space, you might feel like you cannot get out of it. I think the break allowed me to just take time for myself. So it's always important to choose myself, choose you, and say, it's okay. This thing is my thing. When I will do it, I will do it. You know, there's no pressure, there's no timeline. You must do it by XYZ. And even today, I said the podcast and I said, I'm going to do an episode every week. And I'm like, that's a lot of pressure. I'm not going to do that, right? It's my podcast. I will do it when I do it. I know there's need to continue to put out a lot of content, but you're a busy person. There's so many other things you can do. So for me, it's learning to be patient with myself and not continue to add pressure when I don't need to.
Yeah, I totally love that. I totally love that. And you've touched on something that I am very particular about. The thing about creating content and putting it out there, and there's a lot of pressure to make sure that you have content like every single day, every single week, something is coming out. And it's like, if I don't talk to them, they will disappear, they will forget me. And there's a lot of people on the internet telling you that you have to put content out there. They will forget you if you don't. So how do you handle the pressure of having to be a content creator, to be a creator of such a difficult conversation, a difficult topic, and still juggle with all the other things that are going on in your life?
I think it's in a balance. First being patient with myself. And when I say patient, I say, yes, you can have a plan, create this schedule. Remember, I'm having conversations with people. So even you right now, right? How to schedule this conversation with you was not easy. We took a little back and forth to arrange schedules, right? So imagine now having to get people to sit down in a room, podcast together, do the video, edit the video. There's a lot to go on. So I create the plan. I create the content calendar, and I'm like, this is what you're going to talk about. But then if something falls through the cracks, okay. Like, I am so okay with myself in that sense, which is extending grace to myself and not being too hard on myself. Because if I'm too hard on myself, it will crash my motivation and I will not come back to do it next time. You know, so how I handle it is when I do actually get to do it, then I will batch content create. Right? So I will shoot maybe like 3-4 episodes together, which will then be rolled out over a month, knowing that I won't need to necessarily sit again to do that for the next 1 month. So by myself, so trying to find efficiency is what I'm pushing at here, you know? So that's one of the things that's really worked. In the beginning, I tried to shoot every week, but I was like, nah, it's not working.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Do you do like pre-recorded episodes with people who come and have the conversations live, or are they scripted?
They are scripted, but they're pre-recorded because this is uploaded, right? We'll go in the studio, we will sit down, conversation, and then we will edit whatever needs to be removed.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. As a fellow content creator, I totally get what you mean and how you do it, because I think it's something that I've also tried to incorporate in my work when I realized that creating content requires a lot of commitment, and most people do not see it, especially people who are on the outside. They're just like, oh, you just sit in front of the camera and you speak. Wow. And I'm like, girl, first of all, I need to sit and think.
Yeah, but maybe going back to your question around femicide and where we are as a country, it breaks my heart every time I hear this. Every time I hear some I go to the person, oh my gosh, that girl, oh my gosh, oh my. But then my mind automatically also goes to, oh my God, about to go through it, about to get in depth of grief. If it's their first time, it's gonna be so rough because you're not even, like you said earlier, you're not even grieving in that moment because the public doesn't allow you to grieve. The public is trying to find out who are you, who are their sisters, who are their brothers, who is this person's friend, where were they when this was happening. So there's a lot of prying into your personal lives, which is what I'm imagining those families are going through. There's a lot of journalists coming your way. There's a lot of policemen coming your way. There's a lot of just people coming left and right, and everybody has an agenda for themselves, right? And it's sometimes somewhat okay because then you have the activists coming your way, and we have to be out there championing this. But then if someone takes your story and uses you as their poster child, it takes away your ability to privately grieve. So for me, I'm thinking about the families that have been left behind, the families that when all of us go, even after the march on Saturday, when we all went back home, what are those families? What are they thinking today? Their children's name continues to appear on our TV stations every single day. Not forget, but just when you're not even thinking about it, switch on TV, the first thing you see is your daughter's name, your sister's name. So it's a lot going on there with them. Their first time going through, and all of us, it's your first time going through this. Maybe those people are your friends, maybe girls. You're not able to process because you're dealing with the shock of, oh my gosh, such a cruel way that's led us here. You're maybe you even knew that person who's been, because you see these people are known victims. So I'm guessing if there's a girl and she was murdered, like the girl in Orisambu, the victim was known to her, the girl was known to her, and he was also known to some of her other friends. So you are dealing with a lot of shock. You don't know what to tell the family because, again, I was telling my sister who went to school in a different. I said, please don't go become a statist, And nobody ever sends their child away to school to be right. You want the best for your child. Remember what our mothers do. They pray for us, maybe in their homes. My daughter, we are out there in campus, all these crazy things ourselves, having fun and doing what we do in campus life. But then somebody takes advantage of that. My point here is, I wish we could, as a society, the media, anybody who's involved, continue to allow this to go through their grief instead of knocking on interviews.
That's very true. I agree with that 100%. I also feel that every single time that they get to see their person being displayed on TV, hearing on the radio, it's like the grief starts all over again. Because I think there's also a period of grief where, as much as you're grieving, you also don't have that constant exposure to the missing person. Yeah. But then now everywhere you go, everyone is speaking their name. Everywhere you go, somebody is mentioning something. You walk around, you see a newspaper that has their name on it, and you're thinking, when does it get easier? And I'm also thinking about how much the pressure is in the beginning. Like, there's so many people talking, so many people in your presence, and then they all kind of die away slowly by slowly. And then now you're left with your grief alone. But then there's the reminders. How as a grief coach, how would you advise these people to navigate that period of time when they just have these constant reminders that they cannot really get away from?
I keep advising people to create boundaries, right? And I know it's hard to do. It's easy to say, but hard to do. But creating boundaries, when I'm also like running support groups, I tell people, say for example, your husband has died, or your wife has died, and or you've lost your spouse, and then you keep getting invited to coupled up events. You should not go. You have no obligation to go. you have the right to say no, right? Like, and that means you're choosing where to place yourself. So even with these families today, one of my first advice would be to stay off social media, because social media can be overwhelming in the midst of everything. And I've seen people do this. I myself did it. This, as soon as I learned that my brother died, because I had a brother who died last year, I went off social media because I just didn't want fast. I didn't want anybody to come into my DMs to ask me questions, to tell me things. And this wasn't a public death like the ones that you've seen on TV, right? But now imagine that plus the pressure of the public eye. So I'd say log off social media. It would be easy to hide and isolate, but that's not also very advisable to do. In grief, I keep telling people finding moments of solitude is 100% okay. Find time to be by yourself, think and sit with your thoughts, understand your thoughts, understand what you're feeling. But when you begin to see that you prefer to be alone more often than not, then now you're crossing into the dangerous zone of isolation. And isolation is not solitude. You can be alone in my room and in my thoughts, but then I will come out and continue with my normal life as a mom, as a wife, whatever it is. But if I'm continuously isolating, then that's something that needs to be addressed. So this families, this friends, if you're in this thing right now, log off social media. Don't go looking for these things because they will always come at you. We cannot control what people say or what people think or what people write, especially keyboard warriors on Twitter. They will go all out. Everybody will have an opinion of one thing or the other. They will say such mean things about your person, and your person has died. And they're saying such mean things like, why did they put themselves in that situation? It's like when there was this whole my dress, my choice thing. Why would girls wear this thing? You know, but you chose to wear that, and that's what makes you feel calm, and you're okay in that skin. It doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter what you wear to somebody else, you know. So we should not be judged because we were just living our lives. That girl was just living her life. So yeah, log off social media. Don't place yourself in situations where you might be asked if you need to stay home longer. If you have an employer who can understand this, find a routine, find a buddy who will say, I'm picking you up from your house to work and back. Somebody who's going to be like a buffer of some sort that buffers you from society when society is trying to knock down your door. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense, and I hope this message can reach them as much as it's on social media. I hope somebody can just tell them that this is what you need to do, just to offer them that kind of support, because it's very, very important. I'm very curious what you think. What words of advice you would have for everybody else who is on the outside, and we are the people who have opinions, we are the people who have things to say, we are the people who want to do think pieces on these specific issues. What are some best practices that you would highly advise people to have, especially people who have huge platforms, people who have people listening to them a lot, people who are very uninformed, but they still want to have a think piece? How would you advise them to navigate that path?
I'd say be careful with our words, and put ourselves in that person's shoes, not the person who's died, the person who's grieving this person, the family of this person. Put yourself in their shoes, because if you sit and you think, I have a sister or I have a cousin or I have a niece, it could be them, right? How would you feel? So it's where being more, starting out with empathy. Maybe that's a word to use. Start with empathy, everything else will follow. Like, you have an agenda, yes, you're angry, yes, the whole country is angry. We should do something about it. We should knock down doors and make sure that we are heard. But let's not take this people's grief and turn it into our own agendas, or raise propaganda and try to satisfy our own something selfishly, you know, like to make yourself now more famous about this thing because you are the loudest voice. Are you the loudest voice because you actually care and feel for the families that have lost people, or do you just want to push your own self agenda, you know? So start with empathy, put yourself, in fact, I'll be more impressed if I continue to see people even going to visit these families. Okay, so yes, it's time to give them space, and I've said let's give them some space to grieve. But also you can go visit them and not have to have cameras around you. You know, like, it would be more important to know that even as we are marching down the streets of Nairobi, there is still people supporting these families. These families are in shock and confusion, don't know where to start. Some of them, some of these girls are coming from places where the families just don't know how to deal with the administration or how to deal with government, how to deal with the police, who's on their side. So maybe that's happening. We're not seeing it. We don't need to see it. But if it's happening, those people should continue to do that. So as you continue to push down the streets of Nairobi, marching in protest, let's also remember, how are we supporting the families that have been left behind, the families that are grieving? Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. I agree with you. We don't have to be the loudest voice just because you want to push your own personal agenda and try to seem very knowledgeable about something that is really very sensitive and very
Very sad.
impactful in our lives. Yeah, it really touches on parts of us that we are never prepared for, because nobody really sits and waits for to hear news about their person being a victim of such brutality. That is very scary. Um, during your time when you were going through your grief journey, and as you said, it's something that you go through through life. Basically, you grieve throughout life. It just looks different in different stages.
Yeah.
Who was the most supportive person, or group of people? Where did you find support? How did you even know how to find support before you even got into writing? How did you manage to navigate your journey personally from the very beginning?
I think, I guess with the different losses, there's been different support systems. Yeah. When my dad died, because he was the first one to die, I think my mom was like the main support system, because she then had to rally around us as kids and help us through life, because she'd lost her husband and we'd lost our dad. I guess also with my brother who died from cancer, my mom also remained a big part of that. But I would like to say that my family, my extended family, has been my pillar of support, because those guys have been there through thick and thin. They've always come through. So they're the people I always fall back on. Like when something happens and first phone call, it's always to my cousins or my uncles and aunts. They'll always come through for me. So the point is, find these people. You almost build your support system by one, reciprocating the love and the support they're giving you. So then I'm always indebted to all the support they've continued to give me. So when their time comes, or when their time of need comes, then I'm always at the front of that. So it's a two-way street. I'd like to also say, for some time, I guess church was part of it, but then I say that with a I don't know how to say it, a disclaimer, maybe, to say that I do know that, and I've gone through this myself. Maybe I'm even going through it right now. In fact, if anything, my brother died almost a year ago. I have not been able to go to church since that 1 year. I've only begun going to church this year, right? And that's again that thing of saying, I am angry. I'm angry with church. I'm angry with God. It will take time, but eventually I will find my way back. So now I've begun to go, and I'm liking it that I'm going. And I knew that if I tried to go right after the thing has happened, I would not find any fulfillment from church or being in church, because I was still so angry. But now I'm able to go and find a moment or a way to talk to God. If you're a church person, if you find yourself fighting with church in your head or inside you because you're still so angry, give yourself time. Maybe stop going to church, maybe listen online. If people at church are not either offering the support that they need to, or they're just giving you this things that we like to call platitudes, things not to say, things like, oh, they're in a better place right now, oh, everything happens for a reason, those kind of things. If those things are very triggering for you, again, choose yourself. You do not have to place yourself there. Give yourself time. So support system is knowing who to turn to, and then also forgiving even the ones I thought should have come but didn't come, because a lot of people, like I said from the beginning, don't know how to deal with grief. So when that happens to you and your friends are looking at you like, oh my gosh, tutasaidiaje huyu msichana, because they just don't know, you'd expect that they would come and continuously be around you, but there's no manual to, when grief comes, this is what you do. You know, there's no book like that, right? We all just figure it out as we go. So as a good friend, I'll always just come and support, even when I don't know how to support. I'll just find a way to support. But then there are those ones who choose to stay away, and I will get angry at them. I'll probably never talk to them again, but I will also just forgive them because I don't want to carry that anger. I'll forgive them because I'm like, you know what? They don't know what to do. That's their way of showing up or not showing up. When their time comes, will I show up or not show up? I don't know. We'll see then. So it's just, again, knowing how much energy to carry. Do I carry positive energy? Do I carry negative energy? Choosing how to balance those things. Yeah.
I like that a lot. You've touched on three things that I think are very important that we need to address. The first one is what you've said about support, and you've mentioned something that is becoming very rare by every day that passes. People are no longer leaning on their families, extended families. We are very individualistic now. We are cutting off people. We are not going ushago for Christmas because you choose your friends. It's called the family of choice. You chose the ones who are, yeah, and then they go to Shago. They go to Shago on Christmas and they live in Nairobi alone, and you do not have your family of choice. So the fact that you're mentioning that some of your biggest support has been extended family members who we are becoming more and more removed from. We are no longer talking to our cousins that much. We're no longer talking to our uncles and our relatives that much. What can you say about that particular specific issue? And something else that you've mentioned about the things that people say, they don't know what to say. They'll tell you platitudes and they'll tell you God chose this one because they were the best, and you're like, why? Stop saying that. They will say the most weird thing. You'll be like, then what kind of God is that then? If that is the God that I am supposed to be excited about, the one who takes the one that I love the most. So many people will say some random things that are very pointless in most ways and unnecessary, but it's because they don't know what to say. So what can you tell us about what we can say or what we can't say when somebody is going through grief? And the third and final, I want to put them out together so that I don't forget them, because I know I'll forget them. Okay. Last one is about how do you show support beyond the words that you say or the things you don't say? What are some things that you feel? Because I think back in the day, a lot of support when it came to grieving was very communal, and people knew how to gather around somebody who's going through a grieving situation, and they would come and cook, and they would show up even weeks after the death, and they would be present for a very long time. Yeah. And even ushago, I think that is still something that still happens. But then right now we are very isolated, very alone. We live in our apartments in Nairobi. We don't know what to do when people go through grief. We don't know the things I can go know when I go to my friend who is grieving. Should I bring food? Should I not bring food? But I also have to go to work. Should I stay over? Like, there's a lot of confusion around those things. So please touch on that. Touch on those three things.
Okay. So maybe the easiest one is the platitudes one, things not to say. And it's easy because I have a whole episode that I need guys to check out on YouTube. When you search our channel, Grief Angels, there's a whole conversation that I did with this lovely lady on things not to say. And in that episode, we also touch on things to say. We say why you should not say those things, why they sound ridiculous to somebody who's grieving at the time. So please, it's like more than 20 things not to say. So I don't want to go through all of them here. But if you can watch that, it's going to be very helpful, because even me, who has been on this journey for quite a long time, I did catch myself saying these things. So it's things I have had to unlearn over time, yeah? Because you are taught, especially if you grew up in a very churchy household, you're taught those things of God, everything happens for a reason, and God has a plan. And I'm like, okay, what's the plan? Nobody's there to tell you that. So people don't finish these things. So I would keep repeating these things to people until I realized that doesn't make any sense. What you're telling them makes no sense. People say these things to feel the awkwardness, to jazz that awkwardness, right? So it's awkward between us, you're grieving, I've come, I don't know what to tell you, and then I'll just throw out, everything happens for a reason. And I'm thinking, what? Why would you tell me that? I've just lost my mom. What reason is there? So when you think about the actual words and the English words, and you're like, actually, it doesn't make any sense to tell somebody such a thing. So watch the episode. It's out there. Things not to say. Don't say those things. The second one around support. I'm going to answer the extended family last. So this one for support. Like you rightfully said, in the village or back in shags, it's very easy to offer communal support. When death happens in a household, the community gathers around. There's people, maybe even the chama around will give seats and tents and sufurias and everything. Now, when I saw this happen to a close family friend of family member of mine, cousin of mine, recently, and she lives in Nairobi, and made me realize how, yes, individualistic we are in Nairobi. Because, again, think about where you live. Do you know your neighbors? Do you know who's next door? Do you know who's maybe above you or below you if you're in an apartment? If they're going through a loss, would you know? If you're going through a loss, would you tell them? Maybe not, because you probably see each other on the stairs and hi, and that's it. We live in such individualistic lives in the city. It's insane. We are so used to for like birthday parties for our kids. We're so used to either going to a place and doing the thing there and inviting our friends there, never into our homes. Or if you have to, you can get even a party planner who will come with their seats and whatever. So there's no one to give you the seats and whatever when you need to. Or if you're in a church, you do it at church. The point is, when my cousin lost her husband last year, it for me, I was now going back to say, when I lost my brother in February, what did I see happen? People came to our house the very next day with sufurias and flasks and I don't know what and things, and I'm like, okay. Then you begin to think, and this is part of the support that you offer, you begin to think there's going to be a ton of people in this house because of this person who's died. So that person automatically will need extra plates, extra cups. They'll need a meko. If you have an extra meko, they'll need flasks. They're going to be hosting a lot. So when we went to her house, we showed up with mekos, we showed up with sufurias, because nobody in Nairobi has sufurias for 30 people. You have sufurias for your family. You have cups and plates for your family, and that's it. If you have more than 10, why do you have more than 10 plates? You know? and then if you have, I've seen people who even have like 50. I'm like, why would you have even 50 plates to host people? You'd have to hire these things. But when you pull together from friends, so if you're in Nairobi today and you're like, how do I support this person? Begin to think like that. And just maybe 2 weeks ago, a colleague of mine also lost her mom. And I'm like, the first thing I told her, you will need a meko, you will need a flask, you will need extra cups and sufurias. She's like, no, I don't think so. I think we'll just be fine. She called me 2 days and said, I need that meko. And I'm like, I told you. Because even you as a Nairobi city dweller, you hadn't planned for this thing to happen. So your gas is your gas for the monthly use, right? You never knew that you're gonna need extra whatever. Now you're cooking for 30 people every day. So that's the thing that I was saying in terms of support. Thinking ahead of, this person is gonna need XYZ, or this person has a school-going child. Maybe your kids go to school together. Why don't you offer drop off and pick up? You know, like they're not gonna be able to do that. Offer that, and not just the week of the funeral and the preparation, even months after when they're not able to, because grief does that thing where it almost sucks the life out of you. Continue to offer that support for, I will continue to pick up your child for the next 1 month, you know, like let this one, I will do it for you. You're going grocery shopping every day. Call, ask, do you need this? Before even asking, say, I actually got this for you because I thought you might still be having visitors. Here's extra maziwa, here's extra bread, you know, just thinking ahead of, because grief, like I said, can hold you hostage. Even showering is a problem. So if you see somebody lives alone, that person will probably continue to isolate in their house. Who's cleaning their house? Who's cooking for them? So as you're making your meals, make extra meals, deliver them to that person's house. They will appreciate it because they'll probably not even eat. They could be going through such depression, they don't remember to eat, right? So showing up for them is not, and I keep telling people, and I say it here, don't ask somebody, which is something that we like to do every single time we hear about. They say, oh, I'm so sorry for your loss. May your mom continue resting in peace. Let me know how I can help. Like that, let me know how I can help is such a bad way of showing up for your friend, because in that moment, even they don't know what they need. They are so confused. Their world is upside down. When you're telling me, let me know how I can help you, I don't know. You figure it out. And that's what I'm saying. Think ahead. Yeah.
That's very true. Yeah, and even before you touch on I think it's the family, the community one, the family one. I was going to say something that is also very, very important that people should think about is just being thoughtful about the things that you yourself bring. Like when you show up, just think about if this person lives alone. You've mentioned there's some people who live alone; they do not have anyone. Just think about when you live alone, what are ordinarily some of the things you struggle with, and how would you want somebody to support you. You might want to put yourself in their shoes. You might not be able to understand their loss the way that they do, but understand that the kawaida life continues. Like the outside life continues. Their
Yeah.
tokens will run out. Their water will need to be paid. Their
Practical,
rent will need to be paid.
practical thing.
Yeah. Go and think about, ask them about their landlord, and just, even if you don't pay their rent, help. Even if they have the money to pay their rent, you can be like, let me support you in that. You can be like, invite them to things. That's an important one.
Yeah.
They may not want to go. They may not be interested in going at all. But if you don't invite them inviting themselves will never happen. So you have to be the one to go, like, we are going for a picnic at Ura, please come.
Yeah.
Even if they say no, be the one to invite. And don't give up when they say no too many times.
Yeah.
Just keep inviting.
Yeah.
Very important.
And I like how I'm inviting them, because you continue the social events so that they can get out of their house, so they don't also feel left out, that these people are now leaving me out because I'm going through this and I didn't choose for this to happen to me. Again, like you said, if they say no, that's fine. Be respectful, understand that they need time, but continue to just say, I know you've said no, but I'm just asking you, this is happening next weekend. Are you able to come? I'm happy to pick you up. You know, those things. Like almost doing the work for them. If coming to the venue is a problem, offer to pick them up, offer to send them a ride, whatever it is. Yeah.
Very true. Very true. Talk to us about family and community that we are losing, and that is very important.
So, I think growing up, I used to have such hang-ups about, oh, we must be like this as a family. Oh, we must be like this. We must. But then now, when I'm now older and I watch back and I see my mother's relationships with her siblings, or her family members, or even my dad, I could still see pockets of hawaskizani. Do you understand? So she was not my mom was not the best friend of all her siblings. Kuna the ones we fought with, kuna the ones who are really good with. So just seeing that makes me know that that's what life does to us. Life happens. We grow up together as a band of siblings or as a band of cousins. We are forced into these gatherings together. But then life begins to happen to all of you individually. And then you're going on to form your own families and join other families. It would be so bad for anybody to expect that this will continue. So because it shouldn't. If it does, well and good. If it doesn't, again, that's just life. So if you find yourself leaning more on your friends, and that's the family you've chosen, and that's your support system, and they come through for you and you come through for them, that's 100% okay. If you find yourself, because at the end of the day, all that matters is who was there for you, right? Whether that person's a blood relative or not, it's okay. And that's what I'm saying. You have to get to a place where you forgive the ones who should have come and didn't come. And you also have to embrace fully the ones you didn't even think would come, but then they showed up really heavy. So for me, extended family, all I would say is choose your own happiness first. And happiness here now goes back to choosing your mental peace, mental energy, mental space, and protecting it so bad, because you don't want to just let that door open for anybody to walk in and walk all over you just because they are family. You know, that family name carries such entitlement that people misuse it, and then they think that your door, you mean they think your space is an open door for them to walk in and out as they please, take whatever they want as they please. You continuously give and give and give, and nobody is giving you and pouring into your cup. I'd say protect your peace, protect your space, protect your mental space. It does not matter whether that person is family, because family comes with so much entitlement.
That's very true. That's very, very true. I highly, again, I'll echo what you've said. It's the people who actually came through, whether they were family by blood or by friendship, who came. That is the main big point. And the people you're also going to come through for, and just being very consistent in that sense. I like everything you've said. I think it's very important. I think it's very helpful. I wonder what are some, considering you've been exposed to a whole community of over 3,000 people who have gone through a journey of grief. I'm sure it looks different on different people. What has been your experience of some of the most rarely spoken about ways of grieving? Like, it looks very different on different people. There's the textbook stuff, the one that you're gonna go depression, anxiety, you're gonna feel anger and bargaining and all those things. But then there's also things that are not on the textbook but it happen. What are some very peculiar things you've seen on the journey of grief that different people experience?
Well, a lot. But I think the one that stands out and comes to mind is I met a girl at a grief event, and we were all going around saying, "Who are you grieving? Oh, I lost my mom. I lost my dad." That girl was there because she lost her boyfriend, and I'm like, actually, wait a minute. We never stopped to think about that. We're so quick to label, and even I sometimes do that. We're so quick to label, oh, this is spousal loss, oh, this is parental loss, oh, this is sibling loss or child loss or whatever it is. But then when that challenged me, because when it happens before you are married, there's no marriage certificate, they're not your spouse, you are dating. And in our society, you're almost even left out of anything, because then now the person goes back to their family. Their family is the one who's taking care of everything. You're nowhere in the planning. You're nowhere in the eulogies. You're almost nowhere, right? Because you're not a wife if you're like the girlfriend, or you're not a husband if you're like the boyfriend. So it surprised me that as a society we're still so boxed into these different things, and then that girl is left grieving to herself. And then after that, I continued to meet more people who had lost their boyfriends and girlfriends, and I'm like, actually, it's a whole segment of people that has been left forgotten, because we are looking at the parents who've lost this child, we're looking at the siblings who've lost this child, we're looking at this other family that's related by blood. Yeah. So even that for me was a eureka moment to just say, continue to think about even the ones who are losing friends, because even you could lose your friend, but in that moment, and maybe you are their best friend, right? But then as soon as it happens, it becomes family, and family takes the forefront now, right? So that would be something I'd say, not really peculiar, but that's something that just caught my eye and made me begin to think about it very differently. In terms of peculiarity, I guess the most peculiar thing I've seen is there's a somebody I know who still buys airtime for her mother's line to keep it open, because and I know in Kenya we don't do that thing for voicemails and you hear their voice, which I think we should move to. But Safaricom will be very quick to give away the line to somebody else, right? But she doesn't want that. She wants to try and send a shilling, and she'll see her mother's name appear. She wants to call it sometimes, and she wants to dial mom on her phone. And I'm like, why are you doing that? It's just what she wants to do. I do think that is not allowed, but I plan to have a conversation with Safaricom around what should people know in case somebody dies. What should I know about their M-Pesa line, their M-Pesa balance? You know, what are those things that we need to do with somebody's phone line, phone number, once again. But that's the most peculiar thing I found. The last one I'm gonna give is not peculiar, it's actually very common, is that grief doesn't grief haina hodi. It doesn't say knock knock, I'm here. It just comes. So I've heard people tell me so many times that I'm crying in the matatu, right? You just and you're sitting in a match and you're going home and tears just fall, and people are looking at you like, and you're just trying, and you're like, nothing has happened. So even the person next to you is wondering, what's wrong with this babe? Yeah. And we're very quick to judge people, but we don't see, of course we don't see the weight that they carry, because it's not physical weight, right? But yeah, crying and grief bombs will attack you. We call them grief bombs or grief waves. They will come at you at any time, day or night, whether you're presenting at work, whether you're dropping your child to school, whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, very true. Very, very true. And thank you for sharing those examples so that people don't feel that because they're not grieving the textbook style, that their grief is not valid. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that it will look different for different people at different times, and anything can happen anywhere. Yeah, thank you for that information. As we come very close to the end of this conversation, I'm very curious about some resources you would like to point people towards. People, maybe you're going through grief right now, or you know somebody who's going through grief and you want to know how to support them. What are some resources that you would highly recommend that people check out after the end of this conversation?
I always say, because nobody teaches us about death and loss and grieving, there's no shame in asking for help, and there's no brevity, if that's a word, in trying to do it on your own. Like there's no award that you're gonna get at the end because you did it on your own. If you can do it on your own, fine. But there's such healing in coming together, either to seek help or to seek support. So seeking support even means asking for help, and asking for help is not easy for a lot of people, but when you can and you have a group of friends, a group of people who can you can ask help from, good. If you can't and you're able to tap into the professional world, where then you can go to therapists, or you can go to coaches, that's also fine. Please do that. If you go to pastors, if that's your thing, do that. I have a huge problem with pastors and how they come at grief, because they come at you with the Bible and you're not ready for it. Yeah. But if that's your thing, also go there. But in terms of actual resources, I'd still say 1000% check out our page. We are continuously putting out content around how to navigate this journey. Check out our episodes. We've had discussions of things you're probably going through or you're going to go through, and you know, or even how to support somebody who's grieving. Whenever think about it, when you think about Mother's Day and your mom is alive, you're quickly planning what to do for them, and how to support them. But then if you've also gone to a funeral because your friend lost their mom, that's is also something you should be thinking about. If you actually went to the funeral because your friend lost their mom and it's Mother's Day, that person is going to go through such a horrible day. They would need your support. So again, think about them. Just a quick text of, I know it's Mother's Day. I know it's going to be tough for you, but I'm here for you. I'm sending you some flowers, and whatever it is, because you tells them you're thinking about them, you know. So yeah, continue to watch our page, channel for YouTube videos, listen to our podcasts. We have put out even book lists, books that can help. We've also put out songs on Spotify that can also be a playlist that helps to get you through a very griefy day. So yeah, there's a lot of things out there.
Sure. Awesome. Everybody should check that out. And we'll obviously link everything that you mentioned in the description box so that people can just click and they know where exactly to find these things. So yeah, thank you for that information. Thank you for sharing all that.
I have a question before we go.
Yes.
What do you do? What is safe space?
I am Jennifer Chalo. I am a counseling psychologist. I'm a writer. I'm a podcaster of this platform. And I do work with people who have gone through grief. I'm a grief therapist, but I also work with other people who have gone through other things, not just grief. So I talk about death and dying a lot. I talk about grieving and loss, depression, anxiety, which are pretty common to most people as conversations that exist. I do therapy for therapists as well. So supporting them in their professional development and supporting them in their personal development, that is something that I do. Just creating content, putting out their mental health, demystifying all things mental health. But I'm very interested in the topics of death, dying, suicide, loss, grief, and anything surrounding that. That is something that I'm very particular about. And that's basically 90% of the work that I do on a daily basis. So I run a private practice where I talk to people about that, but I also see other types of clients. So in case you're not going through grief and you still want to book a session with me, I have a few slots. I can see if I can add you onto it. So yeah, I was actually going to ask you about therapy when you mentioned that people should seek professional help. What was your experience with therapy during your grief journey? Is this something that you pursued? Is this something you've not yet pursued? What are your thoughts around the entire topic?
I've had a very interesting relationship with therapy. I don't want to say love hate, because I actually do believe in the power of therapy. Every time I run away from therapy, it's because I don't want to put in the work. So there's a lot of work that I want to put, that you're asked to do, a lot of reflection, a lot of things that you do. When I run away, it's because I'm like, I'm not doing that, and then I go back. Always find my way.
Clapping for the self-awareness. Clapping
Because
for the self-awareness.
So important to have this place, this safe, non-judgmental place to go and release is so important. But every time I run away, I always make sure that I have something to go to, because within my grief journey, I always say I need to give my grief some form of expression, right? I need to express my grief either through sometimes I journal, sometimes I will what else do you do? Go to the gym. Sometimes people do different things. People go hiking. Somebody has just picked up hiking for no reason. Some people go to therapy. So different things work for different people. The point is, find what works for you. But I am a big believer of therapy.
Awesome, awesome. What do you feel is something that is very important about grief and loss in this entire conversation that we have not spoken about, but you want everybody who's listening to have it at the back of their mind?
I think one of our constant for people is that there's no timeline to grief. Don't pressure yourself into, oh my gosh, it's been 6 months. Why am I still grieving? Oh my gosh, it's been 2 years. Why am I still grieving? There's no timeline. That's a fast. So I think there's a thing called Mona's Bill of Rights. When you look at it, and I think it's in our page somewhere also, you have a Bill of Rights that you, even you as a griever or a mourner, one of the rights is the right to grieve forever, because you loved this person for as long as you did until they died. The question is, are you going to stop loving them? No, just because they're dead doesn't mean that you stop loving them. So all this love that you had for them, that you were giving them when they were still alive, all this love now has nowhere to go. That's how I look at it. That's what comes and becomes the grief. The hugs you no longer are able to give, the calls you no longer are able to make, the being together moments, all that has been taken away by loss, all that is grief. So how long are you going to grieve this person? For as long as you love them, you know. So if you're going to love them forever, then you're going to grieve forever. But it's not all. People think grief and they think sadness, tears, heavy crying, throwing yourself on the floor. It's not always going to be that. That's that. There's a time for that. In the beginning, it's very, very frequent and almost every day, every minute. But then over time, your grieving changes, and you'll find yourself even smiling through a memory that they had, that you had with them. So it's not always going to be tears and sadness and whatever. No, grief will take different shapes and different forms as you continue the work. I keep saying the journey to healing starts with dealing with the grief. You gotta deal with it to heal. Yeah.
That's very true. That's very true. And I do not want to dilute it by adding anything to it. I think that is a very perfect place for us to end this conversation. I know you've mentioned that you are on social media, you're on Instagram, you're on YouTube, there's a podcast. If people wanted to contact you directly, maybe they're looking for a grief therapist, or they're looking for grief support, or they're looking for anything, what is the easiest way for them to find you?
On Instagram.
Instagram.
Such a big drama. If you come to Angels podcast and DM me, I will see it. I will respond. We have support groups that are launching. If you know somebody who might need to join, somebody who's lost someone recently, point them our way, send them our page, share our profile with them, let them see. They will reach out themselves. We also do grief affirmation cards. If you want to show up for your friend, you don't know how to show up for them. I have people calling me, my friend has just lost somebody. How can I show up for them? If you want to send them affirmation cards, we arrange for that. We send them. If you want to send them a whole care package, because a care package is a box of nice things that signal to the griever that you're thinking about them. And these are things that they need. Things like hot chocolate is a simple thing, but it's such an important thing because hot chocolate warms your body and warms your heart in that moment of grief. It could be something like what else? Like even a blanket that somebody wants to stay on their pillow and just hug the blanket. There's different things we put and we build that thing together. I will understand what type of a griever is that, who's this person, who have they lost, how long ago was it, tell me more about this person. Then I'll help you build that care package that tells them, I am thinking about you, I'm thinking of you.
Awesome, awesome. That sounds brilliant. That sounds very thoughtful. And I hope that everybody who's listening is going to take advantage of it, especially when they do come across somebody who's going through a difficult time. And as we said in the beginning of this conversation, we are not going to be spared. All of us are going to go through grief. Either we're going to be the ones that are being grieved, or we are grieving somebody, or we are supporting somebody who is grieving somebody. So grief is really very universal in that sense. But it's also very personal. So whatever experience you're going through personally, don't discount it or don't invalidate it. Don't make it seem like it's too small. Whatever experience you're having, you are having it and you should go through it. So yeah, I think that's very thoughtful. I think I want to say a big thank you to you for coming through, for honoring our invitation, for saying yes to come and talk about a difficult topic, and for being very open with your story, being very open with your journey up to where you are right now. What should we look forward to when it comes to Grief Angels? What are you guys working on that we can look forward to and be excited to celebrate from the sidelines?
That's a really good question. We celebrated our 1 year anniversary in December with a meet and grieve event. So this year I'm hoping to do more events, more meetups where people come together. It was a very successful event. We had about 50 people coming. So we're trying to take that and go bigger. For Mother's Day again, probably put together something for Mother's Day, for Father's Day if we can. Just get people together in spaces. I'm hoping to launch 2 more support groups this year. We have parental loss and sibling loss already happening. These are 8 weeks of every week getting together physically and online to talk about our loss. So I'm hoping to launch spousal loss and child loss this year. Yeah, that's and continue to put out more content in terms of podcasting in Kenya. I mean, not grieving in Kenya, because like I said, there's a lot that we don't know. When even something as big as succession, nobody prepares you for that, or inheritance. Yeah, your parents didn't teach you these things, so somebody's gonna have that conversation. So we will be speaking to lawyers, to Safaricom, to Facebook, to ask them what happens to your digital footprint when you die, and how do we begin to prepare ourselves for that. How do you talk to kids about grief? Those kind of conversations. Yeah.
That sounds awesome. And I can't wait to see everything when it comes out. I'm very excited for you, and I'm very excited for Grief Angels. If there's any way at all that Safe Space Arena as a company and Jennifer Chalo as an individual, as a therapist can support, please DM me. I am available. I would really, because here's the thing. I really, as I said, it's a very personal topic for me. I love talking about grief. I love talking about death and dying. I love talking about these difficult conversations, especially things surrounding suicide, which is very common right now.
Yeah.
So if these are things that you need any support from me as an individual, my expertise, or even my company in general, please tell us, and we are willing to see where we can fit everything in our plans. Yeah. We'll be very excited to just support because I think this is a very important conversation, and it's also very much in line with our values as a company. So yeah, very excited to see where this goes.
Thank you for what you're doing. Your flower well. This is nice. Thank you for reaching out. Thank you for this. Because you could have chosen to just be the therapist that will come to and never come to the public eye. So thank you for coming to the public eye and talking to everybody who's listening. Continue doing what you're doing. It's reaching a lot of people.
Thank you very much, Rose. I appreciate you for coming through. Thank you, every single person who showed up today for the conversation. There's a bazillion people. I appreciate it. And Rose, I will see you next time. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.
Bye.
And good night. Bye.